Guess what, folks? Pony Express just rode in. Got some fan mail from Mac. Well, this is just for effect. He sent us an email, but I want to read it to you. I've lived in Florence, Alabama for over 20 years. Living close to the Mississippi, Alabama, and Tennessee area, we grew up eating a burger everyone called Slug Burger. It originated in Mississippi during the Great Depression, and I wanted to share this with you in case you'd like to give it a try and maybe even like to make a video out of it to share this unique burger and a little bit of Southern history with the others. Hey, Mac, that's a great idea, so let's do it. You want to? Ribeyes, prime rib, big old steaks of any kind, they always got all the glory. But folks, let's look back on history a little bit and look at this Slug Burger, because it's what helped the nation survive during the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl, and I can't wait to try it out. Now our story begins down south, in a railroad town of Corinth, Mississippi, right around the 1910s. A man named John Weeks rolled into town after spending some time up north in Chicago. Now, he wasn't a fancy chef, just a hard-working feller who knew how to make a dollar go a little bit farther. While up in Chicago, John had learned a trick from German immigrants, folks who knew how to stretch meat in lean times. They'd grind in fillers like breadcrumbs, potato flour, even soy meal, and blend them with the meat. John brought that know-how back to Mississippi. He set up a burger stand and started mixing ground beef with soy grits, sometimes cornmeal or flour. Instead of grilling up these patties, he'd deep fry them until they were crisp and golden on the outside. They called it a slug burger. Now, slug, back in them times, was slang for a counterfeit nickel. And for just a slug, you could walk away with a hot burger and maybe a bottle of soda pop too. You know, food back then didn't just feed your stomach. It fed your soul. It gave you hope, helped you get through the dark times. Now, before we get into this Slug Burger, let's talk about an old meal that always was at my table when we were growing up, but a side dish back during the Great Depression and these dark days. What was it? Copper pennies. Well, it didn't take long to chop them up. And did you see how that hash knife works so easy? You just roll it around there. Therapy for your soul it is. We did a video not long ago on old tools that Cookie had. We still use that on the wagon all the time. But we got all them carrots in there. And I remember my mother always told us when we was little, you know, I can get y'all to eat carrots out of a roast, or I can fix them this way and y'all eat them like dessert. To me, this was sort of like a dessert, because when you got this all made, you could take a biscuit and sop that juice that was on these carrots. Oh my gosh, it didn't get no better than that. But we'd grow them carrots at home in the garden. Mama always had a big one, and she'd put them up sometime fruit jars. They'd be in the cellar. But when she'd pull them fresh right out of the garden and she'd make copper pennies, you could smell it in the kitchen when you come in there. Oh, so we're going to add a little water. Not much, just enough to sort of cover the bottom of it, because in goes next what? Butter. Now, I don't remember how much butter my mother put in there, but she made her own butter, and this is pretty close to that. And she always used brown sugar. Now, to me, that's what it made it taste sort of like holiday, but there ain't nothing better than this to me. We're going to get this to cooking. Now, we may add a little more brown sugar to it when we get close to the end, but I'll get it on the fire. Big news is coming, and I'm asking y'all a favor. We have been working on a project for about 8 years, and it is something me and Shan dreamed of, but it showcases something that we love. And we're going to have a video come out at 6 p.m. Central Time. We're going to give you the full scoop on what's happening. So set your calendar, put a reminder on your watch, or tape it on your butt, because it is going to be big news. These sweet and tangy carrots were popular during the Depression when folks needed food that could be made ahead of time, didn't spoil fast, and used whatever they had in the root cellar or the pantry. Why'd they call them copper pennies? Well, just take a look. They look like a jar full of spare change, and back then, Folks needed every cent to count. This dish could sit in the icebox for days and only get better over time. Smart cooking from a time when nothing went to waste. Easiest thing to put on the table it is copper pennies. Now when I had it over at the stove, I added some brown sugar, but folks, you can cut the water back just a little if you want it thicker than that. But I guarantee you when we served it, everybody was ready to get to the bottom of the bowl where the juice was and put that biscuit in there. Thank you, Mama, for this dish. It's so good. I tip my hat to the greatest generation that ever lived, those that went through the Dust Bowl and the Depression. But back in the Depression and war years, there were a few different ways to fix them, depending on what you had on hand and the season. The classic copper pennies used boiled carrots that were marinated in vinegar, sugar, and tomato soup, with sliced onions and peppers. Pretty simple to put together. Potato flakes, little ground beef. But back in the 1930s, the government was pushing a wartime protein that they needed people to eat, needed to know that it was a meat substitute maybe. That was soybean meal. Whew. Even grits were becoming involved. But today, we just going traditional with potato flakes and some ground beef. Now, I'm going to go ahead and dump that in there. Now, traditionally, that's all there was to it, folks. Some people might have had a little cornmeal. Some people might not have. So you just follow along and use whatever you got at home. But we're going to get this all mashed together because this is going to make this go further than it would. And it was all about pinching pennies and stretching $1 for the most it was. Or even like we said before, that slug. A lot of times if you think, oh, I done got way too many potato flakes in there or cornmeal, whatever you're using, and it's going to be a little dry. Some people might have went out there to the hen house, got one of them cackleberries, snuck it back in there and cracked it in there and mixed it with it. Some people also use broth in this method. So I don't think we're going to have a trouble being dry because we got 80-20 ground chuck here, which is 80% lean, 20% fat. We ain't talking about being on a diet today. We're talking about getting by on a nickel. Little salt and pepper, that was all they would have had. They had to just put them on there after they got them made. But me, I'm going to kick it up about 3 notches here with a little chili powder. We're going to go once and then we're going, oh my gosh, there must be some humidity. So we're going to give it a little shake and a little shake of garlic powder. Then we're going to mix again and we're going to season it one more time. It's really, I think, the beginning of a meatloaf maybe. Now we're going to season it again, then we're going to go to making us some of them patties. In 1929, the stock market crashed and the bottom dropped out of the economy. We're talking soup lines, dust storms, and whole families living on next to nothing. The Great Depression stretched through the 1930s and hit every corner of this country. But it hit hardest where folks had the least to begin with. Out west, the Dust Bowl stripped the land bare. Back east, banks were closing and taking folks' life savings with them. And down south, where this story's rooted, families were lucky if they could put beans and bread on the table, let alone meat. But here's where the Slug Burger truly made its mark. It wasn't just a gimmick anymore, it became a symbol of how folks adapted. Diners and lunch counters across Mississippi, Alabama, and Tennessee started serving them up, especially in meal towns and railroad stops. For just 5 cents, a man could get something hot, crispy, and filling. Back in the day, they were always deep fried. Whatever kind of oil they had laying around there. Lard was probably the #1 thing, but they would always usually coat them with just a little flour on both sides. Not much. Give them a little of that crust because everybody said they were so crisp. But as it evolved, people were beginning to pan fry. You would even see some on a flat top griddle. But today, we going with the old timers we are. We're going to flour them just a little put them over in the hot grease, and see what happens. But remember, when you're deep frying a piece of ground beef, you need to make them pretty thin so they'll fry pretty quick without burning that outside. So now before we put that flour on there, salt and pepper. Give it a little pat into the meat. Season pretty heavy we did because we're just seasoning one side. So a little sprinkling of flour, and then we'll come back and rub that in and turn it over on the other side. Be preheating your oil to 350 degrees. Any good high temp cooking oil will get you by. See if one of them will come off there. Little flour on this side. Then we're going to check the oil temperature over there with the chef's temp and see where we're at. Grease is at 347 it is. When you get these got the flour on it, give them just a little pat to get that excess off. Right down in the oil they go, and we is deep frying hamburger meat. Who'd have ever thought it? We're gonna try to get golden brown on both sides and good and crispy, but remember, we gotta keep that meat done in the middle too, so I can't have no overcrowding, so it's looking like one at a time in the Dutch oven today. There's always a lot of good help when they smell meat, whether it's frying, smoking, or on the grill of any type. They're always here. You break out the vegetables, they'll just go take a nap somewhere. Slug burgers became a staple in what we'd now call blue-collar diner culture. Every little town had a counter somewhere serving them up, with a smile and maybe a handful of pickles. It was food for the common man, no frills, just sustenance and soul. And you know what? Folks didn't forget. Every July they still hold a Slug Burger festival right there in Corinth. There's music, cook-offs, carnival rides, and plenty of those crispy burgers, served just like John Weeks made them 100 years ago. Copper pennies and a Slug Burger. It's going to be a glorious day, I can already tell. Now, you see me when I was frying them, and I was sort of doing a shallow deep fry. Take that spatula and sort of splash some of that hot oil up there on the top. Helps them brown quicker on both sides. Did have to turn them over once. You just cook them till they're good golden brown and crispy. Everything is good to go. I have never eaten anything like this in my life, but I'm listening for the crunch. You know, I'm amazed, I really am. The crispiness, I think, is what sells it. But then I thought I was eating a hamburger that had potato chips in it, because them potato flakes sort of swell up a little, and then when you deep fry them, ain't no more Happy Meal drive-up window. You can get your French fries and your burger all in one place right here. You can. Very good. I hope y'all enjoyed it, because I love to go down history, and this is something I'd never eat before in my life. And really, I am fascinated by it. I'm going to make them a regular here at the house. But folks, remember that apron I got? You can't get full on fancy. You know, it ain't got to be fancy. It's just got to be good and filling. But what even makes it better than that and brings it to the best meal ever is when you gather folks around the table with you. We're all resilient. We all can make it. Hard times might be coming, but hey, you throw some food on the table, invite the neighbors over, grab a hand, bless it. Good things is coming your way, folks. 6 p.m. Central, big announcement is coming. We want to share it with family and friends, because y'all are our family and friends. It's going to be a glorious day, it is. You can even make a Slug Burger before 6 o'clock gets here. Have a watch party. But it is with great pride, honor, and privilege that I tip my hat to all the servicemen and women and all the veterans who have kept that old flag a-flying. We commend you all, we do. Rest of you, get on in here for a Dust Bowl Depression era hug. I'm gonna shake the dirt off of me. God bless you each and every one, and I'll see you down the Slug Burger Trail.